Every college football season, there are crazy bold predictions and crazy hot takes. Every fan thinks their quarterback's going to win the Heisman, they think that one freshman is going to set the college football world on fire, or they think that their team has a chance to show the world that they belong in the college football playoff. I think you get the point, and in today's video, we're going to talk about 4 bold predictions that did not go well, talk about what the prediction was, how it went, and just overall give you the story behind it. So, without further ado, let's get started. I don't know how many times I've talked about the Spencer Rattler situation on the channel, but all we heard about all last offseason was how he was going to be the number 1 overall pick, the winner of the Heisman, and how he was going to lead Oklahoma to a national title. Going back a little bit though, Rattler was a 5-star recruit coming out of Pinnacle High School in Arizona and was famous for being on a TV show. He was a 5-star and decided to take his talents to Oklahoma, where he would play in Lincoln Riley's system. As a true freshman, he would be the backup behind Alabama transfer Jalen Hurts, and he would get an opportunity to play in the college football playoff against LSU, and he'd finish the year 7 of 11 for 81 yards and 1 touchdown. A lot of hype began in 2020 as he beat out Tanner Mordecai for the starting job. He ended up throwing for 3,031 yards with 28 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. He was definitely on and off in 2020, as the first few games he struggled, but he really started to put it all together towards the end of the year. That's why all the hype started. He was going to be the number 1 overall pick, he was going to be the Heisman winner, and he was going to get a ring on his finger. That is not how it would go. In week 1 against Tulane, he would struggle, and honestly, he didn't even look that good. And honestly, things did not get any easier for him. He did throw 5 touchdowns in a 76-0 win over Western Carolina, but he struggled against Nebraska, and he was actually struggling so much against West Virginia that the student section was chanting to bench him in favor of Caleb Williams. The Rattler show would not last much longer, and in their game against number 21 Texas, he would be benched and Caleb Williams would take over for the remainder of the year. Rattler was thrown in when they were losing against number 13 Baylor, but he eventually finished the year with 1,500 yards passing with 11 touchdowns and 5 picks. He came a little bit short of the number 1 overall pick hype, as not only did he decide to come back to school, but he entered the transfer portal and will now go to South Carolina, where he will try to save his career there, and I guarantee you there will be a ton of bold predictions about how he's going to be amazing next year for South Carolina, and we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Now on to the next one. Penn State has been known for producing some high-quality running backs. In the last few years, they had guys such as Saquon Barkley, Miles Sanders, and Journey Brown. But let me just say, there was a guy who was as hyped up as Barkley going into the 2019 college football season. His name was Ricky Slade. Coming out of C.D. Hilton High School in Woodbridge, Virginia, Ricky Slade was a 5-star recruit, the number 1 all-purpose back, and the 27th best player in the class of 2018. Came into Penn State with extremely high expectations, and he'd actually play a decent amount as a true freshman. He'd run the ball 45 times for 257 yards and 6 touchdowns, and all the flash and potential was there for him to be the next great Nittany Lion running back. That is why when Miles Sanders left for the NFL, he was pegged as the next man up and the next superstar. How did that turn out? Let's take a look. Well, he'd be thrown into a 4-man running back competition between Journey Brown, Noah Cain, Devin Ford, and himself. Ford and Cain were highly touted freshmen, and Journey Brown was sort of an overlooked player on the roster. Where did Slade finish? Well, he was 4th out of those guys. He ran the ball 47 times for 214 yards and 2 touchdowns, which did not live up to expectations. Ford and Cain both had more touchdowns and yards, and Journey Brown ended up becoming the bell cow back as he finished with nearly 1,000 yards rushing and 12 scores, but unfortunately, he would have to medically retire, and that is for another video. So seeing the writing on the wall, Slade decided to enter the transfer portal and find a new home for the 2020 season. He decided to go down a level and play for the Old Dominion Monarchs. They're not exactly the most prestigious program in college football, but Slade would probably have an opportunity to play a lot and be the main guy in that offense. That didn't end up working out. He never played a snap and was no longer enrolled. I can't seem to find him on social media or find what he's up to now, but Ricky Slade is a mystery amongst college football fans and is a disappointment in the eyes of Penn State. I hope he figures it all out, but all those hot takes about him being one of the best running backs in the nation or the next Saquon Barkley were a little bit wrong. This bold take was a little bit before my time, as I didn't really start following the coaching tree until the 2018-19 season, but Jim McElwain was apparently a huge deal. He was a quarterback in the 80s for Eastern Washington, and that's where he got his coaching start as well. His first big break came at Louisville in 2000, and then he'd go up to the NFL and be a quarterback's coach for the Raiders. He quickly fly up the ladder until he was hired as the offensive coordinator / quarterbacks coach for Nick Saban at Alabama. He helped resurrect that offense, and McElwain was seen as the next big thing. He took the head coaching job at Colorado State, where in 3 years there, he went 22-15 and made 2 bowl games. In 2014, the Colorado State Rams went 10-2, and now McElwain was going to get paid at a new big-time program. Where would he go? Well, the Florida Gators would hire him. They had just fired Will Muschamp, and Jim McElwain was going to save the program. One article even said, quote, "Jim McElwain might have been Nick Saban's biggest coaching prodigy." Well, how did that one turn out? In 2015, he got the Gators to the Citrus Bowl and the SEC Championship, as they ended up going 10-4. In 2016, the team would once again go to the SEC Championship, as they went 9-4 and then won the Outback Bowl. 2017 was going to be his big year, but after a 3-4 start, he was fired. He went 22-12 in his 3 years at Florida, and part of me doesn't really think it's fair that he got cut that quickly. I mean, literally in his first 2 years, he made the SEC Championship, but the thing is, he was supposed to resurrect that offense, and they could just never get going, and the direction of the program was not great. So they decided to go hire Dan Mullen, and Jim McElwain became an afterthought, right? Well, no, he took the head coaching job at Central Michigan in 2019, and in 2 of his 3 years with the Chippewas, he's made bowl games, including a 9-win season in 2021. So while Jim McElwain may not be the best Nick Saban assistant, he may not have worked out or saved Florida, he's a pretty solid head coach in college football, and I think he gets a little bit more crap than he deserves. Was there a more disappointing team in the 2021 college football season than the Iowa State Cyclones? You could argue maybe Clemson or Indiana, but Iowa State was supposed to be a playoff team. I saw many articles talking about how this could be the year that the Cyclones make the playoff, how they could win the Big 12, and how this could be the best team in school history. Unfortunately, that is not how it would go. Iowa State was a dead program when Matt Campbell arrived, but through his first few years in Ames, he has saved that program. In 2020, they had a breakout season with both Breece Hall and Brock Purdy, and with so many returning guys on both offense and defense, and one of the hottest young coaches in the country, there was no reason to think that Iowa State wouldn't have a huge year. That is why they started out ranked in the top 10, but how did all those college football playoff takes go? Well, immediately people were in a cold sweat, as in week 1 they barely took care of Northern Iowa at home, and then in week 2 got beat by the rival number 10 Iowa. In both of those games, Brock Purdy looked lost, and it seemed like something was not clicking on offense. They would end up beating UNLV, but after a road loss to Baylor, the college football playoff hype was dead by September 25th. They are now 2-2, and while they did win their next 3 games, including an upset over number 8 Oklahoma State, the Cyclones were no longer being talked about. In their last 4 games, they lost to both West Virginia and Texas Tech, both of which really weren't that good, and then they also lost a close game to Oklahoma. The team ended up going 7-5 with a 5-4 mark in the Big 12, and they would qualify to play in the Cheez-It Bowl, where they would lose 20-13 to Clemson. While they didn't get blown out in any games they played, Brock Purdy did not have a great year, Breece Hall slipped a little bit, and it just seemed they maybe bought into the hype and weren't as locked in as the teams of the past. The same thing seemingly happened for Indiana this year, but Iowa State was extremely disappointing, as they were one of my favorite teams going into this past season, and I was so excited to see them maybe win the Big 12. The defense did play well, but Matt Campbell has a lot to figure out. He'll have to replace his top 3 playmakers on offense and a lot of experienced guys on defense, and this is a crossroads for the program, and we will see how they do. Unfortunately, like a lot of college ball purists, the Iowa State hype was all a facade, and all those bold takes were wrong. So yes, in today's video we talked about 4 bold predictions that did not age well. We talked about how Jim McElwain was potentially the best prodigy under Nick Saban, and how that didn't work out. We talked about how Ricky Slade was hyped up to be the next great Penn State running back, but is currently not even on a roster anywhere. We talked about the Iowa State playoff hype, and finally, what happened to Spencer Rattler's #1 overall pick hype. If you enjoy this series, be sure to let me know down below. Let me know another bold take or anything that did not work out down in the comment section below. Give me another topic I could do in my next video. Like and subscribe, and check out all my other videos on the end screen and in this series. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.